Today I'm going to talk about my experience at NXT Takeover Brooklyn. I was there live, Section F7. I was on the floor. I want to talk about not just what it's like to be in the Brooklyn crowd, but I want to talk about what it's like to be on the floor and what it's like to have good seats. I splurged this summer. I'm not a rich man. I splurged and I said, you know what? I didn't do anything fun all summer, really. I didn't go anywhere. I'm going to spend a few extra bucks. And I'm going to go to NXT Takeover Brooklyn because SummerSlam is way too freaking expensive. That's what kills me. A little sidebar. I'm going to do that a lot. When I see fans on their phones in the front row of like SummerSlam, those are like $800 something seats. What the hell? I want to kill you because it clearly doesn't mean that much to me. I wouldn't go to the bathroom. I would not take my eyes off the ring if I paid $800 for those seats. So honestly, okay, off StubHub, I'll just tell you, it was about 200 something bucks. It was in the low 200s after whatever Ticketmaster bullshit fee. I just got it at the right time. I actually got a little lucky, and I'll tweet out some pictures too. Follow me at Bob Hansen Jokes, and maybe I'll start a BobCast Twitter for this bullshit. I don't know, and I'll show you exactly where I was. I circled it on the little picture gimmick there. What qualifies me to talk about pro wrestling? I am a student of Off of the Wild Samoan, WWE Hall of Famer. I was an indie wrestler in WXW, his company, in Pennsylvania for a few years, and a bunch of years in San Diego as well. So while so many podcasts you hear about from an ex-wrestler, or if you're being a dickhead fan, a has-been, I'm not a has-been. I'm worse. I'm actually a never was. So that's a whole different level of bitterness to explore for pro wrestling. So I'm going to tell you what it was like to be, after this water break, what it was like to be on the floor at NXT Takeover Brooklyn 4 this past Saturday. Okay, first of all, I'm not a large man. I'm 5'11". I'm 197 pounds. I lost about 10 this year. Thank you very much. Those chairs, it's like someone decided to fly Spirit Airlines and then watch a wrestling show. It is very crammed, and I'm sorry, wrestling fans, but you guys are getting fatter all the time. Good gravy, you know. How much do you have to like nachos to drop $14 on them? Sweet mother of pearl, what's the matter with you? So I'm crammed in with all these, and that's fine. You know, I'll get over it. It's uncomfortable. But it is tight, and when you're on the floor, it's one of those things that's just part of being a live crowd. Like, okay, even if there's only 6 rows ahead of you, and they all need to stand way too much, and then which forces you to stand, and then you behind you, and everyone gets mad and yells at each other, and security is yelling at people to sit, and of course, when I was in, it's a whole thing, and people are just yelling back and forth. So that can get unpleasant too. But we've got the boom camera, flying over our heads. That doesn't bother me. That's kind of cool. Stuff's being shot. But you don't realize, I think, sometimes how many cameramen are also at ringside. So they had a guy directly in front of us leaning on the ring apron, and I could see certain shots when I would rewatch on WWE Network for only $99 a month with no commitment, and the first month is free for first-time subscribers. I would see I love doing that. Yeah, I could see that shot and go, yep, that's the shot that made us not see. I'm glad I could see that now. And there was one guy in the front, the corner of the aisle in the front, who just would not sit down in the very front row. And of course, it was David Arquette. It had to be. Why wouldn't it be David Arquette? Of course. The actor, I don't know if he's still married to Courtney Cox. I don't follow that stuff. I don't care. I just know it's been 20 years, and somehow the guy is still ruining wrestling. I'm not sure. He was actually kind of cool. I'm overdoing it for fun, but somebody yelled, a funny moment, one guy was yelling, "Hey, sit down," and then I turned to the guy, it was the guy behind me, and I said, "Hey, dude, I think that's David Arquette." And he goes, "Ah, it is. Arquette, sit down." And then Arquette turned around, and then he kind of gave like a shy smile and a wave, and he sat down, and it was all, but there's so many shenanigans going on because, for example, Ronda Rousey's crew was actually there for much longer than you would think, because usually they just kind of shove them out. They sit there for one match. They show them on screen, and then those guest wrestlers in the audience, whatever, they take off, like they did when I went to 2016, the Takeover a couple of years ago, and that was that. For this, Ronda's crew watched at least 3 of the 5 main matches. So, but there was and she had a big crew with her, and people with her, and of course Ronda and her 4 horsewomen buddies, and her husband, I guess. The famous dude, they're all very tall, and they stood the entire time while security is screaming at us to sit down. So we're actually staring at Rhonda and her friends standing for a chunk of time. And that I got a kick out of it. I thought it was amusing, but of course, somewhat feistier and drunker guys are upset about it. I thought it was kind of funny, but I got over it. They do have big screens where you can watch, but of course, it's like the movie theater effect. If you're in the row 7, then you look at the big screen, and it's actually quite painful to look at. But nevertheless, it was cool to see some people like up close. Velveteen Dream, I was so happy to see him up close. Maybe I'll tweet out some pictures too of that I took of everything else.